Yeah, we back. Now today is going to be an interesting video. I said I would make this video. If you saw my last pay-per-view video that I did on the Jewish and the Arab families that are behind the current instability and chaos going on inside the country, I said I would make a part 2, the comprehensive history of the gangs in Haiti. So we're going to go back to day one. We're going to go back to 1791, 1807, 1844, 1865, 1915, 1958. You know, we're going to go all the way back up until the present day so we can kind of understand what's going on, man. Now, to give my position on the current instability going on inside the country, this is my position. I think every single one of those gang members needs to just be eradicated. I think they just need to be eliminated, point blank, period. I used to have some level of sympathy due to the fact that, as you know, poverty begets crime and a lot of the circumstances they were born into, but I kind of hold a hardline stance. I think we just need to eradicate them and start over again with a new generation of young men. Now, the way I look at the situation is this. I kind of look at it like a cancer that has grown to a level where it's kind of critical at this point. For those of us who paid attention during science class, as you already know, in the realm of our bodies, cells are the foundational units. Everybody plays a role. They divide, they multiply. They are the foundation of our life. We need our cells to function so we can be healthy, right? We have the white blood cells, the red blood cells, but as you know, in cancer, that is when they multiply, they divide at a level where it becomes toxic and it can kill us. So I look at the gang members now as kind of like a cancerous group of men. It's become a cancer. It does not serve no purpose. At one point in time, you already know, the country was born out of a revolution, meaning that armed groups of men and women came together to fight for a just cause. But at this point in time, these men are not fighting for a just cause. So we're going to go back to the day one up until now so we can kind of understand the history of armed groups of men inside the country. First things first, we have to understand the perception that has been put out to the world by the Western media. Right now, like I said, in the present day, these guys are criminals. These guys are degenerates. These guys are murderers. These guys are thieves. These guys are sick. But in the past, the Western media has portrayed righteous revolutionaries as bandits, as criminals, as murderers, etc., etc. But that hasn't always been the case. For example, back in 1791, when the revolution first broke out, the world had witnessed the beginning of a monumental event, right? So from the inside, the black men and women who were involved in the revolution, they seen themselves as fighting for a just cause. But from the outside, the revolutionaries were often portrayed as violent bandits that needed to be put down. And throughout this video, you'll see how we kind of rotate between righteous revolutionaries and violent criminals. But anyways, to go back to the root of it all, the first instance where you actually seen armed groups of men who are financed and supported by elite members of the government, you got to go back to 1807. Now, during this time, 1807, Dessalines was just assassinated. The country was split into two governments. Christophe controlled the north. Picquet controlled the south. The north was controlled by a black elite. The south was controlled by a light-skinned mulatto elite. And during this time, there were instances where Christophe would invade the south and Picquet's army would invade the north until they eventually respected each other's borders around 1812 and the fighting kind of stopped. But anyways, take a look up on the screen. Let's talk about General Jean-Baptiste Picquet. Was an ex-slave leader who led a peasant revolt in the southern town of Gondance in Haiti between 1807 and 1820. For a brief period, he essentially ran a separate independent government from Haiti's central government. From 1807 to 1819, Goman, that was his nickname, led an autonomous farmers' republic that was situated in the southwest. The peasant insurrection was financed by King Henry Christophe, and he had kept up a Congo tradition with this group of Maroons until 1820. At the height of the insurrection, Goman was essentially running a separate independent government from Haiti's central government. Goman was pursued by General Germain Maximilien Bargella for 9 months before his ultimate defeat in 1820. Now, during the civil war between the north and the south, when the country was split into two governments, like I said, Christophe controlled the north, but Goman, Jean-Baptiste Picquet, he was situated in the south, which means that Christophe from the north was financing certain rebel groups in the south to destabilize the government in the south. And even though Christophe and Goman never met, Christophe had looked at Goman as a member of the royal government, and he was actually given a royal coat of arms. He was known as the Count of Jérémie, like he had a royal title in the Kingdom of Haiti up north, but he was a rebel that was being financed down south. So That's what you could say was the first instance where elite members of the government had financed armed groups of men for their own personal agendas. Now let's continue. Let's fast forward to 1844. Take a look up on the screen. The Picquet uprising of 1844. Discontent among the black rural cultivators, which had flared up periodically under President Boyer, re-emerged in 1844 and led to greater change. Bands of ragged Picquet, a term derived from the word for the pikes they brandished, under the leadership of a black former army officer named Louis Jean-Jacques Cacos, rampaged through the South. The Picquets, who were capable of articulating a political position, demanded an end to mulatto rule and the election of a black president. Their demands were eventually met, but not by the defeated Riviera, who returned home to a country where he enjoyed little support and wielded no effective power. In May 1844, his ouster by several rebel groups brought to power Philippe Guillier, an aged black officer who had been a member of the peerage under Christophe's kingdom. So now, the Picquets was kind of like the evolution of the armed groups of men that Christophe had financed back in 1807 to 1820, right? That was still kind of destabilizing the mulatto stronghold of the South. And as you can see, Philippe Guillier, that was a member of Christophe's government decades before, but at this point, he was a very, very old man. He was a very, very old man. Now let's continue. Let's fast forward to 1849, the rulership of Emperor Faustin Soulouque, the last black monarch of the Western Hemisphere. Soulouque was a general in the Haitian army when he was appointed president of Haiti. He acquired autocratic powers, purged the army of the ruling elite, installed black loyalists in administrative positions and the nobility, and created a secret police and a private army. Soulouque was the last Haitian head of state to have participated in the Haitian Revolution, the last to have been born prior to the independence, the last ex-slave, and the last to officially style himself as a king or an emperor. In 1847, President Richer died, and during his tenure, he had acted as a figurehead for the Boyerist ruling class, that was the mulattoes, who immediately began to look for a replacement. Their attention quickly focused on Soulouque, whom the majority of the Boyerists considered to be a somewhat dull and ignorant man who seemed to be a malleable candidate. Soulouque, aged 65 years old, was subsequently enticed to accept the role offered to him as Haiti's 7th president, taking a presidential oath of office on the 2nd of March, 1847. At first, Soulouque seemed to fill the role of a puppet well, retaining the cabinet-level ministers of the former president and continued the programs of his predecessors. However, within a short time, Soulouque surprisingly rejected his backers and began to consolidate himself as the absolute ruler of Haiti. According to the book A Continent of Islands, he organized a private militia known as the Zenglans and proceeded to arrest, kill, and burn out anyone who opposed him, especially the mulattoes, thus consolidating his power over the government. Soulouque's power consolidation saw an increase in racial discrimination in favor of Haiti's black population, including a massacre of the mulattoes in Port-au-Prince on the 16th of April, 1848. Now, as you can see, this rivalry between the black man and the son of the white man, it was raging pretty hard in Haiti, as you can see. You know, decades and decades of rivalry between the son of the black man and the son of the white Frenchman. Now, let's continue. Let's fast forward to 1867. The presidency of Sylvain Salnave. Take a look up on the screen. Sylvain Salnave was a Haitian general who served as president of Haiti from 1867 to 1869. He was elected president after he led the overthrow of President Faustin. During his term, there were constant civil wars between various factions. Eventually, he was overthrown in a coup by his successor, Nisage Saget, and Salnave was tried for treason and executed. Rest in peace to a real one, you know what I'm saying? A real mulatto, you know what I'm saying? That's my dog right there, Sylvain Salnave. That's my homie right there. Let's continue. Salnave, a light-skinned mulatto, was born in Cap-Haïtien in 1827. He enlisted in the Haitian army in 1850. He was captain of cavalry when Fabre overthrew Faustin Soulouque in January 1859, and he was rewarded for his aid with the rank of major. In 1861, Salnave was bitter in his denunciation of Fabre for what he called Jeffroy's subserviency in the matter of the occupation of the Dominican territory by Spain. Jeffroy, whose popularity began to decline, was powerless to punish Salnave. Salnave promoted and encouraged frequent insurrections on the borders, and in 1864, he abetted an insurrection in the northern part of Haiti, but the movement was put down with the aid of the Spanish. In July 1866, Salnave led a new uprising at Gonaive. Although he was again defeated, the revolt continued to increase. Jeffroy resigned the presidency on March 13, 1867, and left for Jamaica, where he spent the remainder of his life. Salnave faced a general uprising in the countryside as various chieftains from the provinces refused to recognize his regime. This led to a state of chronic civil war in which the country became divided into the northern, southern, and central regions. While Salnave faced opposition from the armed peasants in the north, the Cacos, and peasant bandits in the south, the Picquets, most of his support came from the center, especially the capital. Salnave became quite popular among the black urban masses who appreciated his populist economic policies, including the establishment of state-run food stores where basic goods could be bought at low prices. Because of his black support and despite his status as a mulatto, he has been viewed as the founder of Haiti's National Party, which has claimed to speak for the interests of the ordinary black Haitian. So, like I said, man, Salnave wasn't a typical mulatto at the time, He was a real one, you know what I'm saying? He was a real one. Like, if you know the history of, what's his name? Baron de Vasti, Christophe's right-hand man, who also was a mulatto, you know what I'm saying? A real deal mulatto, though, a real one, you know what I'm saying? Who was riding with the black man. He wasn't trying to be a fake, dark-skinned Frenchman. Now, let's continue. Let's fast forward to 1915, the United States invasion of Haiti. Take a look up on the screen. In Haitian history, the Cacos were bodies of armed men originally drawn from the country's enslaved population who came to wield power in the mountainous regions of Haiti following the victory of the Haitian Revolution in 1804. The United States invaded Haiti ostensibly to restore order in the wake of the assassination of Haiti's president Vilma Guillaume Sam on the 28th of July 1915 and maintained a force of Marines to occupy the island until 1934. While the United States forces were able to pacify the cities quite quickly, the Cacos maintained a rebellion in the mountainous areas to the north. Despite lack of local support, the Cacos threatened to defeat the U.S. Marines at the Battle of Fort Deputy. But skillful use of reinforcements enabled the Marines to launch a surprise counterattack that resulted in the entire Cacos force being either killed or taken prisoner. The Marines then slowly advanced upon the mountainous Cacos territory, eventually trapping and defeating the remnants of the guerrilla force at the Battle of Folivier. So in this instance, as you can see, this is where, like I said before at the beginning of the video, this is the positive aspects of armed men fighting for a just cause, where it's not cancerous, where it's actually, maintaining the health of the body, in terms of the analogy I gave to how the cells of the body maintain homeostasis, or they could kill you if they become cancerous. Now let's continue. Now in this section, they describe the three prominent, most famous Cacos leaders, right? Now during this time, the New York Times and the Western publications were describing these men as gang members and bandits and criminals and, all this shit, right? But these were our heroes, our patriots, our nationalists that were defending the national territory. During the occupation era, Rosalvo Bobo was an early leader of the Cacos faction. He led opposition to the U.S. initial entry into Haiti, but was prevented from ever becoming president when Philippe Sédat-Signave was appointed as a puppet head of state under the U.S. occupation. Charlemagne Picquet emerged as one of the most prominent Cacos leaders from his escape from captivity until his death at the hands of U.S. Marines on the 1st of November 1919. Benoit Bétraville, a lieutenant of Picquet, took over as commander of the Cacos in December 1919, but he too was killed by U.S. Marines on the 20th of May 1920. Rest in peace to their ancestors and fuck the enemies. Let's continue. Now, let's fast forward to 1958, the 1960s, 1970s, the presidency of the Duvalier regime. Take a look up on the screen. Francois Duvalier, also known as Papa Doc, was a Haitian politician who served as the president of Haiti from 1957 until his death in 1971. He was elected president in the 1957 general election on a populist and black nationalist platform. After thwarting a military coup d'etat in 1958, his regime rapidly became more autocratic and despotic. An undercover government death squad, the Tonton-Macoutes, indiscriminately tortured or killed Duvalier's opponents. The Tonton-Macoutes was thought to be so pervasive that Haitians became fearful of expressing any form of dissent, even in private. Now, even my grandmother told me stories about how even inside our private homes, she was like, listen, don't be talking too loud against the president. Like, I've heard stories about that. But keep in mind, like they said, as soon as he came to power, he was given a coup d'etat. They tried to overthrow him, and that led to the birth of the, secret police, because as soon as he came to power, he realized, listen, they tried to overthrow me as soon as I got into this shit. So he realized I had to, I had to start financing my own personal private army to consolidate my power. Now, let's continue. Take a look up on the screen. On the 28th of July, 1958, Alex Pasquet accompanied by 2 fellow Haitian military officers and 5 American soldiers, attempted to overthrow Haitian President François Duvalier by seizing an army barracks in Port-au-Prince and rallying like-minded troops for an attack on the presidential palace. Support failed to materialize, and all 8 of the insurgents were killed by troops loyal to Duvalier. Now, let's fast forward to the 1990s, early 2000s, the presidency of Jean-Bertrand Aristide, a former priest and politician who became Haiti's first democratically elected president. Now, as you can see, I've done videos about it in the past, but as you can see by this headline by the New York Times, Aristide demanded French pay reparations to Haiti. He ended up in exile. The Haitian president tried to hold France to account for its years of exploitation. He soon found himself ousted from power. Now, this is a piece from an article, I think by Al Jazeera, on the presidency of Aristide. Armed bands of Chimay, the most militant of Aristide's supporters from the slums, roamed the city in pickup trucks armed with shotguns and other weapons. Now, some people, it's very mixed reviews on Jean-Bertrand Aristide. Some people, he has very, passionate supporters. He has also people who oppose him and view him as corrupt. So it's a toss-up, really. I think that, like I said, when you are battling up against certain forces that are kind of out of your control, if I was the president of Haiti, I'll be honest, in full disclosure, especially considering this is pay-per-view, I would also have a private army as well. I would also have a group of men loyal to me as well, ready to bust shots on a motherfucker. Yeah, I would, especially nowadays when we have all these Arab and Israeli, Syrian, Jewish businessmen in the country that are really, like I said, guarding their interests. I think that if I was coming to power and I tried to guard the interests of the people, I would need to have some firepower behind me. I do believe that. Now, let's talk about the modern incarnation of these so-called armed groups of men in Haiti, who I view as a cancer to the country. They are not revolutionaries. They are not fighting for a just cause. They are fighting for their own personal enrichment and their own personal gain and their own savagery and barbarity. I've done videos on it in the past, but currently the economic elite of Haiti is no longer controlled by black men. It's not controlled by black men. It's controlled by men from the Middle East who migrated to the country and gained their power under the U.S. occupation back in 1915 and have created economic connections to the United States and now serve as middlemen and the proxies of American economic interests inside the country. The factories they own, the businesses they own, they are connected to American corporations, and they are the middlemen that serve American products to the country, right? So in order to protect their interests, in order to support their presidential candidates, in order to protect their business operations, these men have also taken on the practice of financing and supporting and arming young men to essentially do violence on their behalf. And this manifests in various ways. It could be, for example, if I'm someone from the diaspora and I want to come down and take the money that I've made in the diaspora and come back home and invest in the country, start a business, employ people, be a competitor in the market, free market capitalism, right? These men will, like I said, they'll finance armed groups of men to come attack my business, come kill me, come kidnap me, hold me for ransom, etc., etc. During election season, they finance their own candidates and they finance armed groups of men to control certain neighborhoods, to influence the voting patterns of the people, to make sure their candidate accumulates all the votes in the region. And once their candidate gets into office, they give them all type of exclusive government contracts where they're earning $10 million, $30 million, $40 million a month, and they're not even providing a service to the country, electric contracts, all type of shit. Meanwhile, they're not even providing electricity to the people. They're just accumulating a bunch of money for no reason. If you're somebody in the law sector who wants to hold them accountable for their corrupt practices, they'll send their armed groups of men to come kill you at your house, etc., etc. So this is how it's manifested in the modern day. This is how you have men who are of Arab descent, Middle Eastern descent, Syrian, Israeli descent, who have migrated to the country, and they are now terrorizing the black inhabitants of the country, right? A small group of families who control the majority of the wealth inside the country. And you have these young boys inside the country who don't have any opportunities, who were born in poverty, who don't have any education, don't really see the forest for the trees, and they only see the short-term gain, short-term benefits, right? Let's split the ransom money. Let's go buy, Louis Vuitton and Jordans and get fly and, hop on Instagram and look cool. But they don't really see they're being used as pawns on the chessboard, unfortunately, right? So That is the modern incarnation of the so-called, the gangs in Haiti, right? They don't serve no revolutionary purpose. Don't believe anything you hear about these guys being revolutionary. They're not revolutionary. They are pawns on the chessboard, 100%. Pawns on the chessboard, 100%, that needed to be eradicated. They need to be eradicated. And also their bosses who pay them need to be eradicated also. So we can just start over, all over again, man. All over again. Like I said, armed groups of men can serve a positive purpose, like the white blood cells in the body. That is your army, that's your military, that's your defense. But they also can be cancerous, like cancer cells attacking the organ systems in the body until you die. These boys are a cancer. These businessmen, these men from the Middle East who migrated to the country and now control many sectors of the economy, they are a cancer. And they are also the reason why the president was assassinated back in 2021. He was financed by these group of men. He was financed by these oligarchs, and he decided to turn on the oligarchs and go his own separate way. But like I said, when they invest millions of dollars into your campaign, you can't just turn your back on your finances. So they killed him. They eliminated him. That's the facts. That's the facts. But anyways, man, it's your boy Nefakari. That's Sylvain back in the building. Yes, indeed. Cash App up on the screen, and I'm gone. Peace.